Thank you, Madam Speaker. Recently, the Liberal caucus received a letter from Jeanette Heinrichs, a cancer patient, who told us she is paying half of her modest income for the life-saving medication prescribed by her oncologist. The drug she is on, fulvestrant, is not covered by the provincial formulary. It costs $4,000 in the first month and $1,000 a month afterwards. She has already exhausted her savings after only 3 months. I want to thank her for coming forward with this issue. It's a tragic situation that too many Manitobans are facing. We are happy to support her call for the government to fund this drug because Manitoba Liberals believe that no Manitoban should have to choose between life-saving medication and bankruptcy, and no Manitoban should have to choose between life-saving medication, shelter, and food. I table the recommendation of the Pan-Canadian Oncology Drug Review from February 1st, 2018, which said this drug should be covered by provinces. Will this government act to fast-track approval of this drug and restore the life-saving drug program so no Manitoban faces bankruptcy for a drug they need to save their life?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Active Living.
I thank the member for the question. And first, I would want to acknowledge Jeanette Heinrichs, and obviously all Manitobans are sympathetic when the price of pharmaceuticals is high and prevents people from getting necessary prescriptions. I wonder if the leader of the second opposition also explained to Jeanette Heinrichs how his government in Ottawa has brought a supposed review of a federal pharmacy program that has done nothing more than kick it down the road 3 years. Where they could have acted, all they have done is decline to act. Will that member stand today and acknowledge that the federal government and his Liberals need to do more and more to help provinces deliver health care?
The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a supplementary question.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We do need to address the serial exaggerations and distortions of this government when it comes to healthcare funding in Manitoba. This is a government that's receiving over $730 million more this year alone in transfers from the federal government. Federal health transfers have been going up at a rate of 3% every year. I don't recall the Premier or any of his ministers objecting when this decision was imposed unilaterally on the provinces by the Harper Conservative government. I opposed it then, and I oppose it today. And actual healthcare spending is not $700 million or $500 million or $400 million more than it was under the NDP. With a growing and aging population, this government posted a one-year increase of $105 million and has frozen actual funding since. Can the Premier explain why, since this government can find $200 million for a Blue Bombers stadium, they can't find money for life-saving drugs?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Active Living.
Well, that member knows full well, if he reads government press releases, that it was on April 4th, only weeks ago, that the government added 68 new drugs to the Manitoba formulary, saving Manitobans millions of dollars each year. 68 new drugs for cancer care, 68 new drugs, including, I should say, naltrexone and camprosate, which are both designed to specifically help in the addictions medicine world to provide patients with new drugs. These are all ways in which the government is making important investments. But if that member truly cared about these issues, he would ask the federal government why they are on one hand talking about the possibility of a federal pharmacare program and on the other hand deciding to delay any action 2 and 3 years into the future when people need that access now.
The member's time has expired. The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a final supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's the Premier's job to speak to the federal government, but if the Minister of Health thinks that I can do it better than him, we agree. One of the problems with the drug in question is its price. There's no generic version of this price, and there should be. It should have been approved over a decade ago, and the company got an extension. I know the Premier and I don't The Premier and I don't share the same views on trade deals because perhaps it's because I've read the fine print, Madam Speaker. Trade deals, ideally, are supposed to increase competition and lower prices, but the trade deals this Premier supports do just the opposite. They reduce competition and result in higher prices, especially for drugs, by extending patent protections for monopolies. We need a national health fair pharmacare program, but we also need to be willing to challenge the abuse of monopoly power and avoid price gouging on drugs. Will the Premier and his government join us in calling on the federal government to help reduce medication costs for all Canadians by getting serious about the abuse of patent protection by pharmaceutical companies?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Active Living.
Well, I thank the member for the question. He is quite wrong, though it is my role as the health minister to engage with the federal government as well. I have told Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor, the Minister of Health federally, many times that the federal efforts in respect of a pharmacy program nationally must focus on the opportunity of high-cost drugs, exactly the kind that he references and has been brought to his attention. This is the area in which the federal government, if it were willing, would make the best impact to help all Canadians have access to drugs that are increasingly beyond reach. This government is making very good investments in pharmacare, spending hundreds of millions of dollars a year, but his government in Ottawa needs to do more and more to concern itself with price and pharmaceuticals, and we'll continue to lead the way.